Welcome, Matthew, to Agile Middle East.
Thank you.
And we're going to ask you a couple of questions. But the first one we're going to say is, tell us a bit about yourself and what it is that you do and why you do it.
Yeah, well, so right now I'm working at ThoughtWorks in our internal strategic capability development, which everybody always says, what is that?
Yeah.
I'm still learning what it is. Basically, to me, it works at the macro and micro level of our organization at the global level. But also, it gets back to the question you asked about why I do what I do. It's at the personal level. Like, I really want to see people grow and learn and enjoy work, be engaged in work, and so it's really helping people build their own competencies and skills so that they can flourish as colleagues of mine. So
perfect. Because in the past you were helping customers.
Yes.
Now you're internal.
Yep, I've changed hats and focusing internally. But
so eating your own dog food. I mean, what are the challenges now that you're actually?
Yes. Well, it's.
You see from the smile that it's not easy.
The wry smile. Yes.
It's a man living agile transformation.
That's right. Yeah, it's always. I think it is harder when you're looking internally and trying to adjust that way. But it's really. I think it is a matter of thinking more broadly about what it means. You know, we do agile delivery really well with our teams, and it's a matter of how do we apply that to our organization? How do we build capability just in time, the right amount of capability? So there's a lot of other things. You know, it's a distributed organization. It's a relatively flat organization, global organization. So how do you coordinate everybody? How do you figure out what the right things to standardize on are, and what the things are to allow different regions to.
And how's that journey happen, especially just on the co-location thing, where everyone says, you know, if you're co-located, it's going to be a lot quicker, a lot faster, a lot more productive, giving more value to the customer, faster delivery of real working product, as they say. You said you're global. How are you addressing those challenges?
Yeah, so the advantage of having a global team is that you've got perspectives from lots of different places, and it allows you to not forget certain things. The difficulty is it really does require that discipline of being, focusing on communication. Ari this morning talked about how it really comes down to communication. And so intensely communicating through video comms, visualizing your work on shared boards, that's absolutely still key in a distributed global environment.
And how do you keep discipline? Because we hear discipline a lot. I mean, often say omelets are really easy to make, but incredibly difficult to make really, really well. And I think Agile's the same. It's so simple, but incredibly fragile and intense discipline. So how do you, especially like Ari was saying this morning about the daily huddles, the weekly sprints, how do you, not enforce, because this isn't about enforcing, is it? How do you make people want to turn up to a daily meeting instead of the 1,001 other meetings they're doing?
Yeah, well, I think you just nailed it. It's really focusing on limiting the amount of work you're doing concurrently. So limiting work in progress at the highest levels. So at the organization level, what's the thing we're working on right now? And then what happens when you don't do that, and when you work in functional areas, you tend to take on all these other bits of work, and so you're spread too thin across the organization. And so,
but how do you stop that? Like, say, the C-suite. They're always too busy, right? Either because the hero, the head of the silo, which shouldn't even be there, we were talking earlier, but how do they let go? I mean, there's so much work to be done. We're a high-growth company. How do you say no to stuff?
Well, I think it goes back to some of the old lessons, like even from fifth discipline, where shared mental models are important. So do we even agree that limiting our work in progress, focusing and finishing is going to get us the results we want? And so can you have that conversation, that shared mental model? That's how we should be working in the first place.
Limiting it.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. One of the other questions we said we touched upon was the maturity of Agile in a company. So as these companies evolve, transform, and your job is also making this happen internally. If I was to say, well, on a scale of 0 to 10, how agile are you? How would you answer to that? I mean, are there checklists you've done followed, at least the basics, or how does one know one's becoming agile? If it's a relevant question.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I get that all the time. I think, so I usually talk about agility in terms of a direction, not a destination. And the thing that I'm increasingly thinking about, how do you measure agility, is fitness for purpose. So is an organization, is a team fit for the purpose that the customer has hired it for, that it wants to be in the future. And so that gets then to the idea of resilience and even anti-fragility in the best scenario. Can we continue to evolve? Can we continue to be fit for our purpose, both today and then tomorrow as well? Because I think that's really the ultimate goal of agility, and a lot of the practices, a lot of the mindset is becoming fit for purpose always. And so that's what I think of my role, whether I'm doing it internally or for our clients, is helping organizations and teams become fit for purpose. And I think that's the real way to measure agility.
And if I were to ask a really painful question, how do I measure that? So
no painful question, sorry.
So what gets measured gets done, right? So what's the measure of fit for purpose?
Right. So it's really, what does the customer define as why the customer has hired you? So you can't define fitness for purpose internally. It has to be something that you get externally, either from the marketplace.
So really sales, right? And stickiness.
Sales, exactly. Relationships, and again, always sensing what the market wants from you. And so the more direct you can get to that point of interaction, that point of understanding, but it's really the market, the customer is always going to be defining how fit you are, and so it's
at the center of the universe.
Exactly, well, exactly, and so that's why I'm emphasizing in my talk this afternoon the idea of we need to increase feedback loops to understand how fit for purpose we are, because a lot of times we don't have that
just
thinking.
Touch a little bit, I know we'll cover it later. The feedback loop. That's like the lean startup feedback loop or the start, stop, continue feedback loop. Just give us a little snippet.
Right, sure. So I'll be talking about the service delivery review as one sort of feedback loop. So we've got feedback loops to help us understand how fit we are internally in terms of our team, our service delivery. Retrospectives usually give us that. We have a way to understand how fit for purpose our product is. Demos, showcases, actually, is it making money in the marketplace? But usually we don't think about how fit for purpose is the team or our service delivery. And so it's really getting at, does the customer want us to deliver fast, predictably, with a lot of quantity, respond to requests quickly, and what are those thresholds, the minimum and maximum thresholds for those types of interactions? And so getting to quantify those things is really important. So that's what I'll be talking about.
And last question really on the same thing of metrics. I've always been a fan of the Jeff Sutherland's twice to work in half the time.
Productivity, yeah.
Productivity. So could you say profit per employee going up is a good sign that we're moving towards a better state? Yeah,
I usually don't get to that level of measurement, and when I talk about fitness. But I mean, if that's how you define productivity.
So any last words of advice for CEOs wanting to take their company agile?
Oh,
big buzzword.
Right. Yeah. Well, I usually try to avoid the word agile altogether. Actually, I say, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? And if necessary, I'll use the word agile.
Cool.
But I've tried to eliminate it from my vocabulary, except in interviews like this one.
Okay. So, a company that wants to win in the modern post-industrial age.
Right.
What's the best advice you can give them based on your experience?
Right. If I had to distill it to one thing, I'd say focus on finishing work and limiting work in progress.
Cool.
Whatever that is, at the highest level, all the way down to your team level.
Brilliant. So wiping out waste.
Yes.
Deep work. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew.
Yeah.
Good.